People who made a marriage pact with someone like if we're both single by the time we're 40, let's get married and went through with it. How did it go? Hi Reddit guys. Subscribe now, or I will pull your panties over your head. My friend and I got drunk one night and said if we're single in 5 years let's get married. 5 years later we got married, dated for 2 years before that, just celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary and have a baby girl and an amazing life. So, technically you shouldn't have gotten married. They should have broke up first. Best friends since we were really young. Always had crushes on each other off and on. In high school, our timing was awful and we never ended up dating. But we did make a marriage pact. If we were both single at 30 years old, we'd getting married. Some years passed. We moved away from each other, grew distant, dated other people. Long story short, we're now back in each other's lives and I'm reasonably sure we're going to make good on the pact earlier than originally anticipated. That's a good story to hear. Hallmark enters the chat. There was a record-setting blizzard, and the hotshot business executive was only supposed to be in town for the afternoon. With her flight delayed, she had time to meet her old best friend for coffee. When we were 25, one of my best friends and I decided that at 35 we'd get married if we were still single. She moved back to the same town I lived in a year later and I realized I loved her too much to wait until 35. Been together 2 years now, we're getting married next week. Congratulations. I got married last month. Sorry you're experiencing the dumpster fire that is the C virus. LOL. It's certainly thrown us a few curveballs. Some actually for the better though. Now we get to have a small wedding in the forest like we were originally trying to have. I had an uncle who did this with a girl for when they turned 35. They turned 35 and laughed it off, but ended up dating instead. A few years later they got married. I think most who do it are already interested in the other, they just don't want to admit it yet. Guys, I'm nearly 35. I turned 35 today. Will you marry me? Yes. I made this pact with my best friend in high school. Several years down the road we ended up being together, but long before the time frame was up. We will be married next year. I feel like this is how it usually goes. It's the what if we got married, wouldn't that be so crazy of close friendships. Wouldn't it be crazy, as complete Reddit strangers, if we just got married right now? That would be so random. Holds up spork, to give to you as a wedding gift. I made a baby pact with a friend, i.e. if I hit a certain age that I now can't remember he would impregnate me. I knew we wouldn't be good together romantically, but he was a solid best friend and would have been a great dad. It was also a safety net for me that helped me leave an abusive relationship. I had been convinced that no one else would ever love me and I'd never be a mum. Anyway, he ended up introducing me to my now husband, who I have a child with, while he is married to someone far better suited to his personality than me. So I'd say it worked out for the best for everyone. So by introducing you to your husband, I guess he did impregnate you. Sorta. It's like he impregnated her with extra steps. I've made a pact with 2 people and neither of them know. When you all hit 40 that'll be a weird reunion. Plot twist. They both turn 40 and get married to each other, but don't invite you. You agree on the same age with both? Or did you put some years between them, in case the first one doesn't work out? I did agree on the same age. Hope they get along. My best friend growing up and I made this pact. We were 13-14 at the time. The pact was if we didn't marry anyone by 30, we would marry each other. A few years later, we moved it to 25. By the time we were 19-20 we started dating. We got married at 22. Just celebrated our 3rd anniversary. You should have another wedding at 30, a party. Don't actually do that to your families. They should just get divorced and married all over again. That is some commitment to the pact. Damn, I hope it lasts. That's so many people's dream relationship and yet so few meet that soulmate so early in life. A good friend and his wife got married at age 18. Still are each other's best friend after 30 years and 3 grown children. He's gay now. That moment you become gay just to get off a pact. Always has been. In my early 20s, I would hook up with this chick here and there. We were actually pretty good friends, but we never really hung out outside of social groups. Which is a shame. She was fun as hell and we always kind of found ourselves in the corner ignoring the group. Anyways, we made a pact that if we weren't in a relationship by 30, we would get married. Turns out she got back with her ex. It's been 10 years, and she reminded me of our marriage pact. I had completely forgotten. We're both married now, to other people. We still talk here and there, and sometimes she tells me that she thinks we would have made a great couple, so I worry that she's not too happy where she is. I haven't seen her in person in years. This sounds like the plot to a slice of life anime. Yet a painful one. One that ends horribly and pisses every fanbase off. Because the author is too much of a coward to just decide on one girl, so he tries to take this middle ground of I'll please everyone, and it just turns into a dumpster fire of bad writing and logic that forever ruins the memory of the entire series. Yeah, I've been burned by romance manga in the past. Why do you ask? I, now, late 30 SF, made a joke marriage pact with a gay male friend back in 1999 or so, before gay marriage was legal. Promised to marry before 40. We both got married this year, to different men with the same first name. So, not quite what was asked, but we're amused. I mean, marriage name pack is something at least. I find this frequently asked question fascinating, because until I encountered Reddit, I had never heard of this practice. I learned about it from watching Seinfeld. Kramer and Elaine had a marriage pact. Make it 50 inches. We're engaged. LOL. I learned it from friends. I think Phoebe had pacts with both Ross and Joey, but ended up switching to Phoebe and Joey, Ross and Rachel, and now I wanna watch that episode of Seinfeld. Yeah, we made a pact when we were 18 to get married if we were both single at 30. We were not dating. Jumped the gun a bit, I suppose, and married at 24 years old. 7 years and 3.5 kids later, and I don't regret it one bit. 3.5 kids? How? He ate half of one. She married Saturn and he's not done with dinner yet. We're married with a newborn. When we were both 19 when we made a pact to marry each other at 35 if we're both single. We started dating at 24, married at 29, and now with a newborn at 31. Gonna renew your vows at 35? An even better twist would be filing for divorce, and then since neither of them are married when they turn 35 they get married again. Sounds expensive. Not really. If you both agree on everything, a divorce can be pretty cheap. Although not getting one at all is much cheaper. I made a marriage pact with a friend when we were circa 10. If neither of us were married by 25, we would get hitched. She became a massive drug addict, and I'm dating someone much better, so bullet dodged. It's sad when STHG like that happens to a former friend. The pact has been made. I on and off dated a wonderful woman for a few years. Commitment was always kind of on, off, and we both dated other people during this time. Things were exacerbated by us both being single parents. Mine were quite a bit older than hers, even though she was older than me. We were always quite close. When we were dating we'd talk about our respective partners. No jealousy whatsoever. We ended up as FWB for a while. One night speaking on MSN, if I recall correctly, we made a pact that if we both hit 40 and neither of us were married then we would get hitched. To be honest, for quite some time I thought we actually would get married. During one of our drier spells, I was at her house fixing her washing machine and her sister popped in to say hi. Well, not only did she look amazing, but I could tell she was checking me out, but I left it at that. More talking online and I joke with her that I'm going to bed her sister, and she jokes back that I should try if I want, but that her sis is married and very happy. Turns out, not as happy as everyone thought. Very abusive husband. Very long story cut short, I've been married to her sister for 4 years now. She did not take the news well to start off with, but that's mostly because I broke the news in such a rantish way, because I was drunk and thought it was funny. We all get along like a house on fire. Her parents, after the initial shock, have been wonderfully accepting, as has her whole family. I'm lucky to be a part of it. We get along like a house fire sounds more like how I get along with my ex-wives. Duke Silver. My husband and I actually have a different pact. He grew up in a home where both his parents were married and never got a divorce, but he watched all 4 of his older siblings screw up in relationships and have unplanned children, or multiple divorces, or a wife who tried to run her husband over, etc. So he decided that he wanted to be married and never get a divorce. I grew up in a home where my parents were divorced, and I would go every other week from my mum to my dad's, and they lived about an hour away from each other. It brought me a lot of stress in my life, and I also decided that when I grew up I wanted to find somebody who I would be with forever and never get divorced. My husband and I met in high school and we decided we liked each other a lot. 2 years into our relationship we decided to get engaged. 3 years after that, about 2 months before the wedding, we sat down and had an in-depth conversation about our relationship and what we expected of each other. And we decided then and there that if we ever decided that we wanted to get a divorce, it would be a knife fight. We would battle it out until one of us died, and then the other would be single. This was to prove 2 things. 1. Marriage, starting, raising a family is a serious thing too. Little spats and arguments are silly reasons to leave someone. Learn to talk to each other and share each other's emotions and your relationship will be stronger. Obviously there are legitimate reasons to leave somebody. Affair, abuse, crime, neglect, etc. These specific reasons are an exception to the pact we have. And we decided then and there that if we ever decided that we wanted to get a divorce, it would be a knife fight. We would battle it out until one of us died, and then the other would be single. You know, I have always had a deep respect for the culture of you Klingons. I wish this more potential parents had this outlook on marriage. A lot of pain from parents, kids could be avoided if this was true. Okay Reddit guys, subscribe now, or I will pull your panties over your head.